Hey guys, Sleepy Reader, Damien here. I just finished a video where I didn't get around to my comics of this week. I was just covering comics that I was catching up on. So now I'll go over what I read this week, which I think was all stuff that came out this week. And it was a very good week. The one comic that I didn't really get into was The Fox. This is a great cover by Paul Pope. The last issue, it seems like my store is only getting the alternate covers on these. Last issue I got a great cover by Fiona Staples. Inside we got kind of interesting, kind of simple art by Dean Haspel, who also is essentially the writer. Mark Waid comes in and puts a gloss on the dialogue after it's all written, I guess, after it's all written and drawn. But it doesn't feel like a Mark Waid comic book. And it feels very random, and I just have trouble caring. There are pages here where I enjoyed the art, other pages where I kind of went, eh. As is the usual case with these Archie comics, it's a really nice package, great cover stock, great paper. There's no ads. There's a backup story by J.M. DeMatteis that I didn't read about the Shield. Maybe I'll read that later. Not a big J.M. DeMatteis fan. And I just kind of glanced at it, and it just didn't feel in deep need to read it, although the art looks kind of cool. Anyway, I would say stay away from The Fox, if your taste is like mine, of course. I'm sure it's a fun enough comic. Maybe good for kids. I don't know. I don't know if kids would find it interesting either or have my problems with it. Another kids comic that is much better is Beware the Batman. This time we got Pig, or I don't know how you pronounce P-Y-G, Pig. I assume it's just supposed to be Pig. They do a neat thing in this. So here's a kind of one-page recap of Batman and his motivation and his background, done silently. And then scattered throughout the issue are little one-page things about other characters. Here's Alfred's one page. Their version of Alfred in this show, which is different than the Alfred we know. And later we get Katana's one page. And I thought that was a really cool way to kind of catch you up in a fun new way, for readers who are new to these characters. And all of us are new to these characters in a way, unless we've watched the TV show, I suppose. Because Katana and Alfred are not the same. And then there's another little callback to one of the characters. A child character gets a half page like that of his backstory. So all in all, kind of cool. I don't know if you remember last month in Beware the Batman, they had a protest group that was like the people who protest around the World Trade Center and stuff, or around Wall Street. I mean, I can never remember their name. Anyway, in this one, we've got Pig, who's attacking evil industrialists who get away with doing shoddy jobs and creating oil spills and other disasters, and then never have to pay for it. So our victim is an industrialist bad guy, but another victim of the story is his loving, 4-year-old son. So it's a kind of, underneath a simpler kid's story, kind of a complicated moral issue. And Batman defends the industrialists, and there's a comment near the end. I can't find it now. On nights like this, you think Batman ever wonders if he's on the right side? No, says Alfred. That isn't him. That's not how he operates. He's the Batman. He always knows what side he's on. And they show the kid at the end. But it's definitely a weird moral gray issue that I don't know if kids that this is supposedly aimed at would follow or understand the issues there. Because in some ways, as some character in the book says, Pig is on the right side. His methods are wrong, but he has the right idea of holding these very rich people accountable for the actions of their companies. Phantom Stranger, I didn't fully understand everything that was going on here. I own some copies of Phantom Stranger I haven't read. I've missed some issues. I haven't kept up on Forever Evil because I plan to read that stuff in trade. I still kind of enjoyed it, maybe carried along by the art. This guy is, I think I said this last month, Fernando Blanco, just reminds me of 70s and 80s art, the way he does things. And I kind of enjoy that. Is a very skilled and competent artist, and it's just kind of pleasurable. But the emotional meaning of a lot of what was going on in here kind of passed me by. But I think I'm going to keep getting Phantom Stranger. I hope that he moves on more with his own story, and the crossovers, like they almost always do, are kind of getting me off track. Hinterkind was on the, not on the it was on the edge for me. I was enjoying it. I didn't think there was anything special about it. It was sort of like an old young adult novel that I might have read as a kid, done well, but nothing that surprised me or was very adult. But this issue, things are starting to click more. There's really very few people to root for. You're kind of against these fairy tale characters, but because they're being awful to the humans. But then we get some new characters who may be some form of human who are even more awful. And so then you feel the fairy tale characters are right to want to be against the humans. The art's still not my favorite art, but it does the job. And I'll keep getting Hinterkind. I'm interested to see what will happen next. Now we're getting into all excellent stuff. My last 5. I read a lot this week. If you look at my last video plus this video, it really is a lot. Swamp Thing. Oh, so good. And, just continuing from last week, we get a battle between the new Avatar and Animal Man, and we see the new Avatar sort of struggling to prove himself to the Green right away that he's a great Avatar. Just wonderful art. Everything clicks. We don't actually see the Swamp Thing in here, but he is the Alec Collins Swamp Thing, but he is kind of narrating the story as he views it from his sort of afterlife in the Green. I'm looking at the... Yeah, so again, like everyone who reads Swamp Thing saying, we definitely advise you to jump onto Charles Soule's Swamp Thing. You could probably jump on with the annual or go all the way back to issue 19. Soule writes things so well that any issue you jump on, you're gonna enjoy, I think, even if you don't have all the information. He does a good job of... I never read it and say, hey, what happened last month? I can't quite remember. I always can pick right back up on it. 5-star... These are all going to be 5-star comics. Earth 2 was really good. I mean, I really liked much of James Robinson's run on this. But, judging from the first 2 issues written by Tom Taylor, Earth 2 is in very good hands. Maybe, at least in terms of this huge conflict that Robinson set up, Taylor may be better at doing it. He's more focused and more intense. Whether he'll be good, it'll be interesting to see how he handles quieter moments or building up this world more, because he's doing a great job of tearing it down. But part of the fun of Earth 2 is seeing how they build it up and play out the differences from the regular not Earth 1, but whatever the regular DC Earth is called. We got the evil Superman here. I always talk about how great Nicola Scott's and Trevor Scott's artwork is, and that's true again. Great coloring again. So just a knockout issue. I think it's been this colorist Pete Pentasius all along. Again, as I think Dr. Monkeybot has mentioned, they really should be putting the colorist's name on the covers of these DC books. But Earth 2 is great. Trillium. Last issue, something happened that could have been the end of the whole story. Now we're in a whole different thing, and almost like Philip K. Dick time slip, strange alternate futures and pasts that these characters have finding themselves in, and this flip book thing again. You read the top half all the way through, and then you get to the back and you flip it around, and it really works. I mean, some of the flipping was annoying some people earlier, but I don't think this will annoy anyone. And it's like they're mirrors to each other, each page, and it's brilliant. And it actually makes the book deeper and richer by doing this flip thing. I felt a little antsy. I wanted to find out what's really happened, what's really going on. But of course, that's the pleasure of the story, the mystery, the mysteriousness of it. If this is issue 5, so there's 3 more issues to go. If it continues this way, I think, and I'm hearing all these other people really loving it, I think Trillium may be this kind of thing that people are still, sending people to in trade 10, 15 years from now, a semi-classic of the field. I mean, that may be jumping the gun, but of course it's also a question of how is this going to read in a trade. If you love comics, you probably want to track down all the individual issues, because it's definitely this unique individual issue experience where each individual issue has its own unusual layout that probably doesn't work at all in digital comics and is going to be less effective in trades than here. Although I can imagine that I might also end up buying the trade of Trillium if there's something else about it, because if the next 3 issues live up to everything that's come before, it's going to be on my list of favorite books. Triple Helix. I think I said last month how great this was, and I know no one else is getting it, and it probably doesn't make sense to pick up this issue. I think this may be a 5-issue thing, but these 5 issues link to the 5 issues of Trio, and I'm guessing that Byrne will have another series that will come after it that link to this. But what you get out of this is just classic John Byrne Bronze Age superhero stuff, done very, very well. Byrne's art is very good here. It's like he's been re-energized by something, maybe by his own plot. The superheroes definitely, resemble the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, but he's varying the basic setup enough so that everything feels fresh at the same time as it feels familiar. Like this one character that kind of looks like the High Evolutionary, seems to be the creator of the group, the Triple Helix. That's kind of their version, his version of the X-Men. And there's a evil, crazed scientist who's created these robots that are designed to just hunt down Triple Helix, like the Sentinels. But it's all done so well. It's so fun. If you could, I would say pick up the trade of Trio and then hunt down the Triple Helix issues if you're a John Byrne fan, because it's really paying off. Trio was good, but had its weak points. And in Triple Helix, it's really, everything's paying off. It's kicked up a notch, or several notches, and is excellent reading. You probably, because like a Bronze Age comic book, you can pick up on what's going on without having read all the issues. You probably could start with Triple Helix #1 and just figure out what's going on as you go. There's a little. He unfortunately doesn't recap things the way they used to do in the old days. So anyway, still, for what it is, it's a 5-star comic. I mean, it's completely different. It's in a completely different world, you might say, completely different comic book universe than Trillium, which, it's 5 stars. This is the final one here, and this is my big surprise. I kind of picked it up just because I was grabbing more comics than I should have. Because I kind of promised myself to only pick up a certain number of comics each week. But I picked it up in a moment of weakness, and particularly because it's $3.99, and I am telling myself $3.99 books from Marvel and DC should be wait for trades. And I thought, well, I'll just buy one issue and then I'll wait for the trade. But I really liked this beginning of the new series by Greg Pak. Maybe I'll go back and get his 0-year issue, but I don't think so. But the art by Aaron Kuder is fantastic. It's a bit of a cross between like the whole Frank Quietly Mobius kind of style and some more mainstream styles. It's just beautiful, beautiful coloring too. And the story is, throughout the issue, is a pretty good Superman adventure against these monsters and with some moral qualms. But then at the end of the issue, where it finally has a reveal of how Superman really dealt with the problem, and I don't want to spoil it by showing that, then it like clicked with me. Woo, totally cool. And suddenly I felt like Greg Pak, really has a great idea of Superman's psychology and his morality. So really excellent. I'm really excited. It's funny because I've even made a video where I said, Superman and particularly his supporting cast are, one of my least favorite things in comics. But when I find good Superman, I get kind of excited just because he is the primal hero, the primal superhero, the progenitor of all of this. But I loved the art. The story was really great. So another, for me, 5-star book. So, can next week live up to this? Seems like I'll have a week where I'm really loving what I'm reading and then a down week. But and by down, I just mean where things are kind of meh rather than fantastic. Someone said, this is one of the worst eras of comics. I saw in one of their videos, and I would have to disagree with that. I think there's a lot of good stuff. Maybe you have to look in different places than you used to look. It may be not the greatest period in Marvel Comics history, at least for some people, such as myself. And at DC, it's most of the action, as it's often been in the past, is in the Vertigo and the slightly more odd comics like Earth 2 and Swamp Thing. And then you've got all these really interesting independent comics that are coming out that intersect with the mainstream comics world. It's not like the old days of sort of alternative independent comics that were just totally in their own world and have nothing to do with the storytelling or artistic standards of the mainstream comics. Now they're kind of taking a lot of those skills and professionalism of the mainstream comics and turning them in new ways and playing with them and stuff. And so I wouldn't know whether to say this is kind of a golden age of a new kind of independent comic or just a silver age, but I mean it's a good age. And I think there's some nice interplay between the world of independent comics pushing the mainstream comics to do interesting things. So anyway, some of the mainstream comics, of course, with things like Hawkeye, for instance, or Young Avengers, and perhaps with Swamp Thing. Anyway, glad for those of you who made it all the way to here. Thank you. I am gonna do a. Last year I did this, and the gifts arrived after Christmas, and I'm not sure when I'll manage to make them. But I'm gonna do a kind of gifts to my friends thing. But I don't want. I have too many friends here, so. If you write in the comments, let's see, what should it be? Now I'm drawing a blank. If you write holiday season in the comments, I will add you to a lotto drawing, where I'll draw 3 names, and then I'll pick out comics for those people as a holiday seasons gift, which I'll send to you. So I may not have as much money as I did last time, where I mostly sent people kind of Silver Age things, but or I sent some people some Silver Age things. Anyway, I'll do my best to pick out something interesting. So, yeah, what did I just say? Whatever I just said before, put it in the things. I think I'll mention this at the end of one other video also, maybe if I do a vlog. So, today's December 8th. You have until December 18th to put that, and then I'll do a drawing of random numbers and pick a few people to give some gifts to. Hope you're all well. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.